Let's try a little volume. How's that? Welcome to 2022 ZENcast, the first one. I apologize for last ZENcast. I was not able to make it. I actually got sick and something transferred from my grandkids, and I actually couldn't speak. It was just like locked up my vocal cords. So thank you for being here. I appreciate everybody being here. We're glad that you're here so that you can see what's going on in this ZENcast. And welcome to 2022. Sure hope it's a better year for you. And Don, I hope volume's coming back now. And I noticed that. I noticed that the volume was off this time. So thank you for checking me on that. Audio check. Should be good now. Let me know if you're not hearing me, but it should be online. Thanks, Don. So we are here for 2022 ZENcast. Let's see. And again, apologize for last year. Got sick. Wouldn't do the ZENcast much good if I lost my vocal cords, so I had to cancel. We'll reschedule the ZSD for later. It's already on the calendar, so we'll notice that as we go through the ZENcast today. So we're going to go ahead and look at a few things today. Primarily, thanks, Don. Primarily ZCM support scenarios. And the next time, which is February 1st, we're going to give the ZCM adding volumes in external mounts. So you could put bundles and imaging on external mounts, but when you do upgrades, what do you do? So we're going to try and cover that and give a good thorough identification of processes to go through when you have external volumes for your ZCM zone. Okay? So we are ZENcast Live. We do this every first and third Tuesday of each month at 9 o'clock MDT North America. So this is, you can also subscribe on the Micro Focus support and training channel, and you could find it under the Unified Endpoint Management. And we'll just go there real quick, pick it up, see if I can drop this over here. Here we go again. Seems like this just doesn't want to, it wants to go to the other browser every time. So you can find the ZENworks ZENcast Service Desk desktop containers. If you go, and that's under Endpoint Management, but if you go to the playlist, you'll find all sorts of Micro Focus products, so you can see what's going on there. Also, the ZENcast upcoming schedule and on-demand library is out there, so you can see what the schedule is, and not only what the schedule is, but also the past recordings, so that you can actually go and it's by product. You could check out a product, maybe search on the product so that you can see what's going on in that particular demonstration or discussion. All right. A little bit of house cleaning. Log into your YouTube chat so you can join us in our conversation. If you have questions, if you have comments, things that you want to go over, be sure to subscribe, send notifications, and be sure to put comments in and likes if you like this. Or even unlikes. We've had an unlike on one of our episodes. So we want to know where the content fits for you. And then you can also put an @ sign in front of the name if you see it in chat. And that you can have a conversation directly to them. They'll get a highlight so it kind of pops out at them and they know that somebody's talking to them. Another thing is check on the gear in YouTube and set your autoplay to off in quality. 720p 60 will give you your best quality for this stream. Okay, here's the ZENcast schedule. As I mentioned before, you could see that we have ZSD 8.3 coming up. It's going to be released February 28th. So we'll do a what's new right after that. And we could see that we've rescheduled our last episode farther down in April so that we're good there. I did cover we'll get to that. So we got the schedule. A couple of reminders. Micro Focus Universe is coming up. If you want more scenarios to look at, or you want to know about different products, you can go out and sign up and register for Universe 2022 from Micro Focus, and they have all the array of products out there. I'll be doing a couple demonstrations. There'll be sessions. There's also recordings, so if you miss them, you'll be able to go back to them and view them. A lot of good information there. As a matter of fact, I'm unfamiliar with a couple of products I want to tie into ZENworks, so I'm actually going out there to look at some sessions that other people are doing for products so that I can learn more about those products. So great stuff out there. There is another reminder about setting up your notifications and updates. I have been seeing on the forums that this is not currently working, but give it a try, set it up. It tells you how to set up your notifications for patches, for any updates to manuals or security bulletins, things like that. I did hear that somebody was having problems with this. I don't know if that's been corrected, but there is a TID out there to set up your notifications for the different products as things come out, like Log4j, right? And then exchanging files with support. There's a TID out there to take care of that so that you can understand how to, in your case, upload and download your particular, they want logs, they want certain things, to make sure that you're able to upload those things to support so that they can get those. Okay, and then development's obviously tied into that as well. All right, so there's a couple reminders, community reminders. We have the Micro Focus Ideas Exchange, some of the navigation there. We want to make sure that you know that we are reviewing the Ideas Exchange. That's how we get a lot of use case for what you want in the products, any one of these products for ZENworks, and of course across the board on all the portfolios. But feel free to go into any one of these. If you were doing ZENworks configuration management, go to Ideas Exchange. You can also learn things from here because the community's put things out there. There may be some resolutions out here, and you may be able to actually get information here or vote. Make sure you vote. You have to be logged in, okay? But vote on these so that we know that the majority or how many people are really looking at using this as a new feature or having a problem. There are also discussions, right? And then, like you can see here, the checkbox, Zen Backup and Restore. Somebody went out there and they actually gave a solution to that. So you see the check there. So be sure to go out to the community site. It's very valuable, and it's valuable to us as well. And not only is this monitored by the community itself, but the developers, the PMs, support people are also out there. Okay. Biggest topic, started the new year in a low note, I guess you can say, was the Log4j. We do have that vulnerability out there. We seem to have resolved that. December 20th, it's kicked off, and boy, it put us through the holidays really trying to get solutions out there. And then Apache solved something, but broke something else, so we had to put another solution out there. But today we'll cover some of the Log4j links so that you can actually get to the latest details on Log4j, what to do when you have how to check for Log4j, and then also how to correct that. Let's see. There's this particular presentation has links for the ZENworks, the GroupWise Messenger, TeamWorks, OES, Filer, iPrint, Vibe. So I put down all the ones that I could find that related to the Log4j and where you can go to determine what the vulnerability is and how to resolve it. Okay. Service Desk, Desktop Container, Admin Studio. Be sure to double check existing packages. Admin Studio 2018 did have a vulnerability, but obviously we've gone to 2019 and 2021 now. So just upgrade to the latest. ZSD didn't have any, doesn't use that, and MFDC doesn't have any. But one thing we did want to make sure that you are aware of is if your existing packages have that component, double check your packages that they're protected, because otherwise you're deploying that out. If you're deploying that out through Zen, you want to make sure that those are fixed as well. Okay, but there's links in here for each one of these communities and their topics on Log4j, and we'll cover more on Log4j coming up. That's part of our topic today. This is a version list that's the latest update 2, obviously. There's a couple of links out there for the upgrade cookbook and YouTube update to info. ZRS 7.8, obviously you install 7.2 and you do an online update. ZSD 8.2.1, there's a what's new and readme and the upgrade cookbook there. And then Micro Focus Desktop Containers 21.9. Now 21.9 is released, and 21.9 was delayed a little bit for release, and 21.11 caught up to it. So this week or next week, you'll see 21.11 being released as well. So get the latest out there. It should be uploaded as soon as you see the release on the community site for MFDC 21.11. Okay. Recap. The last ZENcast was favorites and futures. Sorry, this last one was canceled. ZSD branding and customizations, we'll get back to that later in the year. But I wanted to say thank you for everybody that contributed to the favorites and futures. And what that means is the last 2 years that we've been doing this, almost 2 years. It's been 50. This is our 50th ZENcast. So I'm very proud that you guys have been able to reap from this and take from this program. I hope we've improved it right. Please put in comments and things you'd like to see so that we can keep this going and get the right content out there for you. Today is ZCM support scenarios, things like Log4j patches. Where do I go to get them? How do I get them? And then patching process for 2020 update 2, database migrations and cleanups. If you're on 2017 and you had the Sybase, you well know that you have to go to another database in order to move to 2020, right? So that backs up the Sybase. You migrate it off to another database, and then when you bring up your 2020, you still have some of those residuals there for the database, and that's just because we backed them up in 2017. And once you go to 2020, there's no turning back, so you'll want to make sure that you get that stuff cleaned up, and we'll have some details in that. A couple things down here, which is farther down in the list. I should have removed them from this particular slide, but ZAA, older agent folders. We're having, what can we remove from the agent, right? The agent puts these files out there, and they look like they're from older previous agents, which they are. And can I remove them? So that's some of the things that we were asked. Also, the helper loading for remote management. Okay. We went over on demand recording schedules. Some of the other support scenarios are ZCM discovery tool. We've had how do you go out and see what's on my network? ZCM can look at that for you, okay, and report back to you. ZSD asset management, both in ZSD and ZCM asset management also can be found in ZSD. And if you have ZCM, you own 2 licenses, a technician and supervisor license of ZSD, so you can actually use the asset management in ZSD. Policies, bookmarks, USB connections, Wi-Fi, Windows, group policies, things like that. Bundle management, these are a couple of support scenarios we're going to cover. Imaging, account management. How do you do the account management? Well, I have a Windows box. I don't have AD. How do I automatically create that user on that particular device? You can use a DLU policy, right? Sandbox testing is very, very powerful. So if you haven't used it, or we're just going to cover it real quick, and that way you can test things before you actually deploy it in production. Mobile management app access. Okay, make sure that see how your configuration for mobile management and how do you access those apps, the VPP apps, the Google apps, those types of things. Remote management, anti-malware, ZENworks Service Desk, including, as I mentioned before, asset management. Self-provision, you own 2 licenses for it, prop it up. You could then, even if you're not using it for ticketing, though it's very powerful with ticketing, you can have users self-provision for some of those bundles that they can deploy on their devices that you allow them to. So, and we've had a couple sessions on that. So we'll cover it lightly. But the most important, obviously, and the biggest struggle going into the new year was Log4j vulnerability. Now, I do have to say that, yes, ZCM deploys automatically. If you notice on why don't we have a script, part of that is taking a script on all the different scenarios in different environments can be cumbersome, and we want to make sure it's accurate. We wanted to make sure we got the security to you immediately so you can manually do that process. Unfortunately, we had to revise that because of some of the issues along the way with Apache and so forth. But we apologize for not having that type of deployment method for you. But we appreciate all the input that you've given. We've taken it to the other PMs, and we're trying to make it so that development and PMs can get together should this occur again and be able to supply you with something a little more robust. And but in the meantime, the CVE RCE 0-day mitigation vulnerability in ZENworks, there is a documentation out there, and it's a TID, and it talks about the different things that went through and what it fixes. Okay, so you can see the Apache mitigation here in ZENworks. It was found in Apache Log4j. This was the original one, if I remember correct. No, this is the second one. This was the first one. So that we're updating this document. Know that it's out there, 3058, so that you can reference it. And if you download our PPTX, you can get all the links in this presentation in a PDF. So it'll be in your chat. So if you've logged into chat, you'll be able to get that. The next one is the installation instructions. So we've gone through a couple revisions. We're at 998 for the server. Let me move this over here. Okay, there you can download today's presentation in the chat window right there. So 998 is the most recent. It also talks about if you've already patched your update 2 server with the 997. Okay, refer to section B below. So we're trying to be very diligent on making sure that this process is done right. And then here's the 997 patch, which you probably reviewed if you've done that. Oh, actually, this is another technical documentation that 997 has an issue with ZCC Helper and how to resolve that. Okay, it happened to be with the Sophos endpoint protection. So don't be alarmed that I said that there's something wrong with remote control. Not everybody. It just happened to be with the Sophos. If you have Sophos, double check this TID out. And that way you can put the exception. All it is an exception in Sophos so that you could run that utility, right? When you run the remote control or remote management, it runs the viewer.exe, and it typically isn't in Sophos unless you put it in there. Hello, Jose. Happy New Year's. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you being here. Fionn, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Leave your comments below or join in the conversation. Thanks for joining us. All right, so you know that there's an update for the servers and then the satellites agents. You know that the satellites agents have the same agent. When you promote them to the satellite, it obviously gives them more details and more permissions to do other things, right? For depending on how it's configured. So, but they use the same agent. So you can there's settings for both, and we're going to cover this. The ZENworks community. I do want to say thank you for the ZENworks community. All your input about why isn't this automated, or how do we do this, or what about these steps, those types of things. We've really been able to we've picked up your frustrations and those types of things. You can see here's that TID that Craig put out there, but even the community has jumped in, and there are some scripts out here. Now, we haven't obviously tested this through all the different scenarios, so use at your own risk, but You guys are great advocates of this product. You do some thorough testing, and I think this is definitely something to test in your test environment, where there's a script out there to simplify updating for the Log4j, okay, on update 2 servers, okay? So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And there's others out there. Let's see, out in the TTP forum, there were some as well. Okay, for the excuse me, for the Linux appliance, Linux and appliance, and then also for the primary server on Windows. Excuse me, sorry. Not 100%, about 98, but okay. So there's things out there. Again, you could do an install. Oops, you can do an install bundle, adding the Log4j format. Message no lookups equals true. There's a registry key there. I put them in here for some notification for you so that you're aware of those. There are some Log4j tools that will scan. Now, we can't endorse these, but obviously the community has to some respect. And so there are some tools out there to scan for Log4j. And so I put these links in here so that you can, oh, I didn't get the links in those two. But if you look for Log4j scanning, you'll see from Tech Republic and MSSP different scanning tools. All right? And some of these names are most likely common to you that you've seen. Okay, CrowdStrike and so forth. So be aware that those are there. I can get those Tech Republic. I'll update it for the next PDF. I'll throw these in the reminders of past what we covered last time. Database migration. So remember, as I mentioned, going from 2017 to 2020, if you had Sybase, we had to remove the Sybase database from use. And so we moved to PostgreSQLs as an internal. And we also, you can move to externals. There are a couple of tools you can use. I keep clicking on that. Ensure you use the latest tools. Okay. There's a database migration from Sybase to Postgres. This is the internal. Well, they have internal and external here. You can optimize. So this is under the database database maintenance area. Okay. And so on the SLD site, I think I'm logged into SLD somewhere here. And then clean up for administrative tools. Let's see where we're going with that. Oh, yeah. Okay. So let me see if I think I'm in here. Nope. SLD. Let me find SLD so we can get there. SLD. Give me a second to get the URL. I thought I had it open. I guess I did not. Must have closed it. Okay. Sorry, let me get this for you. Okay. Logging in. Accept. Let me get this. Let's go here. Go ahead and log in. Minimize that. I accept. You can go to your account. If it's not up, because I am internal, I'm going to go to my email address, select, search. And it's good we're logging in because there's a few things out here we want to be sure to reference today. And so we're going to be going to configuration management. We're going to go to our status, and there's 2 in here. You notice 20.1 and oh, this is 20.2. This should say 20.2 right there. 20.2. So depending on which version you're at, right, you'll want to go to CVE. Okay, notice this is superseded. All right, also the ZRS was affected, so this is superseded as well. But you'll find them down here. So here's the latest patch, and here's the latest patch. Okay, you can go ahead and hit download to download those, right? That's for 20.2. If you went to 2020, which includes 20.1, oh, I just jumped to from Log4j to CVE. So 20.1 CVE is the same thing. You can find those patches out there. Again, CVE, Warren superseded. If you keep scrolling down, you can see those as well. All right. So you can get to those particular downloads. We're talking about database migration though. We're on 2020 update 1. If you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see the DB migration tool 3.1. You want to use this one for 20.1. This one should be for 20.2. Apologize for that. Let's go to the top. And let's go over to EU2. So your database migration all the way down is 20.2. Okay? Remember, we did that big shift going from update 1 to update 2 with Zocker and all those other architecture changes. So that's primarily why we have that. But one thing that you want to note, after you've done that, these are migrating if you want to migrate to other databases. Obviously, for 2017, you're migrating using 3.1, this first one here. So this is everything 20.1 and before will be 3.1. And you can migrate 2017 using that tool as well. But again, I talked a little bit about the residuals. Be sure to double check you have these cleanups. All right, so you can clean up that Sybase database on Windows, on Linux, depending on where you have it, on the appliance as well. So Linux and the appliance is pretty much the same for using this utility. So know that those are right in 2020 update 2 zone. You just go to the ZENworks setup, right? Okay, so that's a database migration. We still have people asking, which is great. I mean, database is the core, right? You want to make sure that you have everything done right with your database so that you don't have any issues. So you want to make sure that that is pristine. Using those tools very effective. So that's some of the support that we've gotten calls on is for that. Okay. Also, we did have a call recently about inventory only agent, right? And you do have inventory only agents out under again the ZENworks tool, ZENworks setup. Okay. So what this does is inventories it, but it doesn't put the remote control, ZA, Zeus, all that stuff. It just puts the core inventory on it so that you can actually have inventory on those lab devices that you don't want running ZENworks as far as being bundle management, policy management, all of that. You could still put an agent on it. Okay, and so that's somewhat how you do that. The other thing we got a question on is Windows 11 21H2 supported, and I don't know if you saw it as we went through here at the top. There is a, let me go a little bit bigger for you, sorry, but it goes off the screen. That's the downside. But you can see 1121H2. There's a patch out there for the inventory only agent and the managed devices. So this is combined. All right. So we do support that. Just so you know how to get to that, that's one of the support calls that we got as far as what do I do? I have the latest version of Windows 11. What do I do to support that with ZENworks? Okay. How do I discover what's on my network? And if you haven't discovered this, this is just a hidden gem that we used. I'm trying to find my ZENworks here. It's over here. Nope. All right, we'll go here. We'll log back in. A hidden gem is the deployment has a discovery in it, and you can do discovery tasks. So you can basically whittle this down it found 172 devices on my home network. Obviously, I have a lot of servers in my labs and stuff on top of other things. So I have 172 devices. And if you look at the results, you can see what the results are and how it actually found them, right? So you see a lot of failed here. Let me go a little bit bigger. You can see succeeded here. So the MAC address, it succeeded. So it's also searching via MAC, Nmap, ZENworks ping. Obviously, some of the things won't have ZENworks on them, or a lot of my things won't. If it's my in-house stuff, my TVs and that type of thing, right? But you can see how it succeeded, okay? And that's very, very helpful, because even after that, if you go to the devices discovered, you could then start making different folders for them to know what they are. If you have printers, if you have network equipment, if you know a particular printer, you can drop it in here and be able to actually organize, even though they don't have an agent on them, even though they don't have an inventory agent on them. You found them and you've discovered them. So you'll see deployable types here. Then you also have unknown devices. Notice 165. So some of these I'd go into and I'd try and discover where it came from, and then you could edit this and make sure that you have those details in there. Then you start seeing what's on your network. Then you could start comparing and understanding what those other devices are. We used to use this at my previous employer to see if anybody's putting new things on the network, right? And we'd run a report and we go, oh, there's something new there. Did we have any deployments? Didn't have any deployments. And we'd go out and research why that particular device is there for security reasons, right? Obviously as number one, okay? And then how do I tell what devices have which version? Seems real simple. I'm at my desk and the agent's running, but if as an administrator, how many desks have the agent running, right? And so if we look at in the devices, and I've covered this once before, I think in a ZENcast, but if you look at advanced search, this is a whole golden jewel right here. Advanced search, you can then set up different searches, okay? You can add, and of course you have the criteria test, and then you have those filters of all types, right? You can see who's enrolled, what's going on. And the nice thing about this is a quick filter to say how many devices are on 2020 update 0, how many devices are on 2020 update 1. Okay, let me scroll over. How many devices are on 17? Okay, just by setting up the add and adding the filter right at the top is the agent version right there. Okay, and this stays along with you in your profile, so it might be good. It's really handy to have when you're doing things like even patching. How many patches went out? How many, if you're rolling out a new agent, how many rolled out, right? What's the difference between yesterday and today? Are we making progress? Yeah, you could go to system updates. There's other ways of doing that, but know that this hidden gem is here. Okay, so that's good to have available to you. And if there's any questions, please throw them in. Any comments to help out, please throw them in the chat. Love to hear from your comments as well. Another one was I need an update. I need an up-to-date user ID and password agent removal tool. So trying to find the agent removal tool. Again, if you look in your SLD, I think you select your product. We'll go down to configuration management again. And we'll go to 2020 update 2. And if I do a control find agent, let's go to the next one. There's a cleanup utility. Okay, that's the README, but you can get there's a cleanup tool right there. Okay, now the nice thing about this tool is it's backwards compatible. Okay, so if you have 17, just go out to your current SLD, download it, and use that one. It's a great utility to try and remove those agents if you're having problems removing the agent. Okay. Oh, I jumped way ahead, didn't I? I missed this one, the agent tool. I jumped right by it. Okay, and back to which devices I have, which version. We did the advanced search. There's also ZCC reports. If we go to ZCC reporting, and you could do ZRS reporting as well, but ZCC reporting you can obviously run these as well, right? Now this isn't. I threw this up here real quick to show you that this basically takes it from inventory. So I said any product with this version. So you gotta tweak this a little bit. So it's finding all these things that have this version on it, right? And so I really didn't narrow it down to the agent itself, which is what I needed to do for this particular example. So just know that the reporting is out there. You can export it as well down below. But you could set up your custom reports under reports and then ZRS if you have it set up. Okay. And of course, the administrative tools. Don't forget any of the administrative tools. If you're doing a certificate update, I did an example of a certificate update. Before that, the old one or the new one comes into effect. You have these automatic the installers, standalone installers for the certificate. So if somebody's obviously taken it home and maybe they got sick, maybe they've been on vacation, whatever, and they fire back up and you've changed certificates, all they need is this particular certificate resource, and you can email it to them or have it on your filer or whatever. And once they run that, they'll be back in, unregistering, re-registering, those types of things. So be sure to remember that those updates are there, especially for certificates, but you have the other ones as well. I do have a question that was brought to me by the PM. How many does anybody use the network version of this? So a poll in the chat would be, if there's somebody that can respond to this, the network, do we use this, right? Because they want to know if this is something, again, each one of these are tested and making sure that they're complete. Is this something that we need to keep around, or does everybody just go to the complete with or without the .NET? Okay, so if you can comment in chat, that would be very helpful to me, and I'll pass that on to the PMs as far as if network is being used for the default agents. Okay. Know that the inventory of tools is out there, the inventory only agent, and then imaging tools again. You have your Pixie, your ISD tool, so in your Image Explorer, which is really great for looking inside the images. And then, of course, being able to go to the administrative tools. You have these, but don't forget about these other tabs. All right. Use standalone. Thanks, Valerie. I appreciate that. That's what we're discovering is most of them do, but since I have a community here, it's great to be able to ask you guys. So I appreciate your feedback on that. You do have the remote management viewers, your endpoint scan security stuff as well. Standalone decrypt is here. We've had a call on how do I decrypt? Where's that tool? How do I get to it? We've put it right in here. And then full disk encryption, the WinPE plugin is here. The other thing that I want to make sure you're aware of is the scanner utility. We'll cover that in just a minute. Okay. But you also can drop, if you have tools for your environment, there's a folder you can drop it into so that it'll show up here. Okay. So know that this is, you have access to this. If you just drop that file in this folder, you can actually give that to your technicians, right? When they're out in the field, being able to have access to those things. We used to have back when I was with the previous, we started out with ZENworks back. ZENworks 6.5 or something, we started with tech tools on a CD. So they had all those tools there. Then we started using this for, they could just go to the website and download it. Okay, and of course we've advanced since then. Okay, so administrative tools is great. Manage Windows administrator account. Again, if we go over to our policies, let's go here. It's easier view, policies. You can see we have a DLU account, and you can make it so it keeps it, deletes it, those types of things. So there's a, if you don't have like Active Directory and you have a Windows device and you want to deploy it to somebody, you can do a DLU administrator account, use a DLU to actually put an account on that particular device. Okay, you can give it memberships and so forth. It's really handy. We used it in our lab environments where we didn't want our eDirectory or our Active Directory touching those devices, and we had some eDirectory devices there, and we would use it that way. Okay, and so those are some of the things that we used, non-admin and an admin. If we go back to policies, oh, I want to go home, policies. There we go. All right, so I'm set up for the next one. Supporting and fixing devices fast through imaging. Again, you have, oh, this is kind of convoluted how I put this. Basically, we would tell our techs, go out, fix the device. You know, maybe they have a virus, maybe they have, so they gotta purge the virus or whatever. They go through whatever they need to do. If they couldn't fix it in an X amount of time, just re-image it. And now you're saying, well, what about all those documents that are out there? Yes, it takes time to be able to get your environment to the condition that ours was, and it took a lot of thought. Being able to make sure that they save on their home drive, which is up to the network. They know, everybody knows in that department or that environment that if we have the right to re-image, so save your stuff up. You know, it's a training thing, right? The users don't always know. They just, oh, I just save it local, you know, that type of thing. So we were able to do it and basically said, after an hour, you've wasted enough time, re-image the box, if you can't fix it, and move on, right? And so the imaging would take 7-10 minutes in our case, through Pixie Imaging, and the technician would be able to make sure, as long as all the bundles were in line, to get those departmental apps and those things. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of conditions there. We were actually able to remove the administrator account off of Windows so that we could manage it all through DLU and through some Active Directory policies, and that way we wouldn't have hacking of that administrator account also. So it is possible, and it works really well. Again, leveraging ZCM. ZCM bundles, some of the bundles, obviously the most recent, the Log4j, right? Being able to deploy it to, your agents and what to put up. I put the article again here. Sandbox testing. It changed the way we did bundles because you didn't have to redo the bundles and duplicate and all of that. So the nice thing is you could see here, has sandbox is the last column. You can see yes, no, yes, no. So for instance, if you make any changes, most changes, I won't say any changes, the administrator notes doesn't cause it to go into the sandbox. But if you make any changes to any of the requirements and actions and those types of things, it then creates a sandbox bundle, right? Basically a temporary bundle. And we've had some questions, well, how do I actually get that to the device? Because obviously it's sandbox. I don't want it to go to everybody. Well, if you go over to devices, and if we did workstations, oh, I don't know where I put them. Hang on a second. Let's go here. I I think I can go here. I don't want to do a Mac, but if I go to devices, you can set on any device it to be a test device. So now this Mac, right, will actually receive any bundles related to it that are in the sandbox. Okay, so then you could test. No, it failed. You could do it. So basically, you have your test environment in your production environment, which is very, very handy to have. I'll go ahead and reset that. If we go to users, you have the same thing for users. So if we went to Eddie Brock, we can see, and we had a bundle that goes to him and follows him everywhere he logs in. You could also be testing that by setting that as a test user. Okay, so now if we look at Eddie now, you'll see a diamond over here, a little play button or diamond button. That's the test button. Let me get that a little bit bigger for you. Okay, same thing happens for the test devices. Okay, so utilize that. It's very, very handy to have. If I go ahead and hit this set and I go back one and I look, where's the Mac? There it is. You can see the little triangle there. And also it tells you in the column that I had here for bundles, which ones have. So you could tell which ones you're working on. Now, a lot of times I would put bundles in a separate folder, testing area, so that I could test them out, and I'd put them in sandbox, those types of things. You can see there's a sandbox here, and then I'd move them to the appropriate location. Okay, so very, very effective sandbox testing. This is one of the questions that came in, some of the nuances about that. Hopefully I covered some of those well, and you were able to pick up on something there. One of my favorites where I previously worked was bookmarks. If you haven't done a bookmark policy, this is something you should play with. We had PeopleSoft, and every time we did an upgrade to PeopleSoft, we would change a URL. And back then, right? And so for HR, for finance, for whichever PeopleSoft they went to. And so what we do is we did basically a bookmark policy, and here you can tell it where it goes, right? You can say, is it on the desktop? Is it, obviously that isn't so prominent, but in the browser, or even on your start menu, right? If you have a start menu and you can put things there, this was very, very handy in being able to deploy and change one place for everything. Our fire department also had that, so that, they had training materials, and they would update the training materials, and they came to me and they says, we're constantly going out to people's machines, or they're calling us, and I need to, they don't have the latest one, right? And since we took that one down and put up another URL, we've obviously have an issue with that. And is there a way we can solve that? The bookmarks took care of it. Okay, giving the ease of giving departments their URL links, change in one location, a buy-in from the department. You do have to have buy-in from the department, but at least they know the process then. You're helping them manage their people. So that's worked out real well. We have had some remote management calls going through the DMZ. There's a whole article on setting up your DMZ for remote management and for ZCC, if you wish to do so. So you can designate your DMZ primary server that's there to be able to do different functions and block other functions for security purposes, especially if it's public facing. So there's a great DMZ article on that. Anti-malware, excuse me. Again, you have certain processes to go through for the anti-malware. You have your custom scan, your enforcement, your scan exclusion, and your network scan. These are all in the anti-malware. Bundle revisions and sandbox, so being able to, when you're checking things, this is in the wrong spot. These two are repeats. Documentation. So here's the documentation on the anti-malware and the configuration and the setup. So this link is in here as well. Okay. The other thing was I have people plugging in the USB. How do I block that, right? As mentioned earlier, we do have a scanner, a scanning utility, and by installing this on in your environment where you do your testing, right? Meaning wherever you're going to scan these USBs, what we did for our techs is we gave them all a USB. We went ahead and we scanned these ahead of time, did a USB policy that those are allowed and everything else is not. And anytime they plugged it in, they could get to their tools on that USB. Okay, so that's another one that's recently come in. And then the admin DLU group policies. Admins, we talked a little bit about DLU, the group policies for Windows, USB policy we talked a little bit about. Okay, in some of the details that you can have in the USB. You either inherit, enable, disable. Is it global or is it specific to a particular location? And what are some of the things that you want to do for your human interface or printing class, scanning, imaging, the PTP stuff do you want to enable? And then this is where the USB access. Okay, you can import, you can copy existing, but the access settings, who's allowed for USB allowed to come in. Similar to Wi-Fi. If you haven't done Wi-Fi, being able to know which ad hoc connections, do you want to enable them, disable them, the Wi-Fi as well? What are the security requirements behind there? What are the access points you want to make sure that they go through for security purposes? And then, of course, VPN. Being able to set up their VPN policy. If they're going out to a particular site, they use a particular bundle, you could say, make sure you use this particular VPN. Okay? And there's different web pages and things that you can set up in the VPN enforcement. Okay? And of course, you'd have to set up a location within one of the locations you have in your zone, right? So we have these locations in the zone, okay, for them to use if you want VPN enforcement. I mean, we're a remote world now, right? I mean, we were before, but now it just threw everything at you. So utilizing some of these utilities, we're getting the calls, which is great, and we're able to help take care of that through the ZENworks. Okay, so another thing I wanted to make sure, when I was at my previous employer, sometimes I would call support, just because I couldn't find it in the doc. But a lot of times, I admit, I would call them in because I knew they had the answer on the tip of their tongues, but that wasn't really fair. I started using the troubleshooting a little bit more. So do know that, like this is ZENworks 2020 update 2, the troubleshooting area. It's very, very specific. If you're having problems in certain areas, you can, let's see, where's troubleshooting? I thought it would open to troubleshooting, but maybe not. Control find, oh, it's at the top. Go to the top, troubleshooting. So depending on what area you're looking for, it's probably covered. Okay, and then there's a TID also for setting things in debug, and we've covered that one before also. But if you're having troubleshooting on the ZENworks agent or content replication, or trying to set up your locations or inventory or even imaging, go out here and double check, because we do keep these up to date. And now that we've changed a lot of that architecture, we want to make sure that you're aware of those recent practices that are put in place when you're doing some troubleshooting on these things. But there's a lot of different, let's see if I can go bigger. A lot of things to troubleshoot on. And so once I found this was one of my go-tos, as well as the debug TID, setting in debug if you're remote controlling, or if you have a Zeus issue, how to set it in debug mode. Okay, database maintenance is also out here. We go to the top, and I go to control find database. So you have database administration, your embedded, your external. Again, these have a lot of things in them that would be very, very helpful if you're talking about your database and what to do and what's going on with it. There's also things like zone administration, right? Product licensing, user sources, certificates, so forth. And sharing between zones if you haven't. You have a test zone. You have just before I left, we started implementing, because we were able to get our production zone pretty much nailed down with the governance and being able to have the departments rely on us for ZENworks and using ZENworks. And then we had our test zone. And so what we're navigating to is doing all our bundling in the test zone, and then sharing the zone, sharing the bundles over and the policies over. So that really kept the production clean of the test stuff, right? So, that's a handy utility there, being able to share your zones and share things across the zones. And we've done a ZENcast on that as well. ZENworks certificates, if you're having issues with that. And then also, don't forget about the upgrade cookbook if you're doing any of your upgrades. Again, 17 has its own upgrade cookbook, but going from 17 to 2020 is here. Yes, true. Tom, I appreciate that. Good point. Finding it on the older pages, I just have it memorized. www.novell.com/documentation, right? And then I go to the documentation. Boom, I'm there. It is a little more trickier on the new Micro Focus site. I bad habits die hard, I guess, because I still use it's just in my brain, right? So yes, it is a little bit harder. If you wanted to, you can go to this documentation site right here and use it, because it's basically pointing in the same place, just in a different format. Okay. I don't know when they're terminating this, so caveat there is I don't know when they're terminating that, or if they will. But yes, thank you for that note, Tom. I appreciate that. That is a very valid point. As you can see, I have a tendency to go this way as well. And for those of you that didn't know about that, again, www.novell.com/documentation. So upgrade cookbook is there. I think I went to it. And it has different things all the way up to update 2. If you just moved to 2020.0, how to get to update 2 and those things. One thing that we do have to update this now is the Log4j, being able to make sure that is in here or referenced in here. So I don't see it here, but I'll go ahead and do that today. Make sure that that's in there. The rest is product updates. If you download this, you could see we did some customer portal information we had out there. If you're having discrepancies on the portal, you can, you don't see your license, or the licenses are wrong, or you can't even log in, those types of things. Here's some email addresses, and then resources, logging into Micro Focus portal. There's some YouTube videos on some of these. So know that those are there, so you can use those, and they give examples and what to do and validating your email address and so forth. Okay, so those references are there for the customer portal. As far as Log4j, again, I put another slide in here for all the different products that I came up with at the time, so that you can just go right to them to see if you have that product, how to mitigate that issue. The ZENworks suite, we're currently at 2020 update 2. We do cover the U2 Windows 11, as we mentioned earlier. And again, extended support for 2017 expired last year, April. So know that get to 2020 as soon as possible. Let us know if you need help with that. We're happy to help you. Remember, the PRU is out there. Be sure to do your, gosh darn it, be sure to do your, if you have appliances, be sure to do the online update because of the security appliances came out. I think one came out November, December. So make sure you get those in on your system. Okay. I again did a Log4j hot topic. Want to make sure those links are available to you. Imaging, we're currently at May 2021. I'm going to find out if they're going to have another one. I'm sure they're developing it. I just don't know when it's going to be released. OWS, again, you can make your ZCM suite. If you have OWS, you can actually make your ZENworks, a ZENworks suite, adding some of these details by adding a ZENworks extension, and that's purchasable. Admin Studio 2021 is out there. MFDC 21.9, again, I mentioned 21.11 probably will be released by next week. So be a lookout for that. There's some documentation links there and how to set things up from Jason. Okay. And then ZAM, ZAM, you can remember you can do ZAM through ZCM. There's an asset management component of it, but also ZSD. Use ZSD asset. It's great for asset management because you can import from ZCM and have your assets in there. So ZPM is out there. Patch Tuesday highlights. A couple of TIDs out there. There is a course out there. So feel free to use that course to get up to speed on patch management. ZRS 7.8 is out there. Again, you do the online update for 7.2 on up to 7.8. It's just one, 7.2 to 7.8. And then ZSD 8.2.1. This will be released February 28th. That 8.3 will be released February 28th. I want to say thank you to everybody that joined us in the public beta. We had a very successful beta, narrowing down, making a good solid product for you, moving into that new feature set in version 8.3. And then Connected 10 is out there as well, the documentation. Don't forget about some of the past recordings and events and recent articles. Okay, so I put some of those out there as well for your entertainment and light reading. Surveys, please do comments. Let me know how the ZENcast is doing for you. Send in surveys or send in email to me at zen@microfocus.com or paul.pedron@microfocus.com. Happy to entertain those. If you have use cases you want to put on the agenda, happy to do some of those. We had to run through quick because there were so many scenarios. I really couldn't get into detail, but at least gave you some ideas on how to help manage your environment. And I do appreciate everybody that joined us today. Tom says something, information security might now be a good time to make disabling TLS 1.2 easier and remove logjam. You know what? I wasn't quite up to speed because I got sick and I really couldn't do my logjam, Tom. So I think that's a very valid point that we need to do a session on not just logjam, even though that's going to be beyond, it's going to be a month old already practically, right? But both logjam and TLS 1.2. Yeah, that's a great ad. We'll put that in the docket to have a demonstration on that. Okay. Thank you so much for that participation there. I wish you guys to stay safe. I'll be online for a couple more minutes. If you have any more comments or suggestions for ZENcast, we'll take them all in and try and get to those because it's about what you guys need. And I'd prefer giving you what you want instead of trying to think something up and it really isn't down this forum's alley. So we appreciate everything you guys are doing. We're going to go ahead and check out. We're pretty much done for the day. Just a little bit past time. I apologize. But thank you so much. And feel free to text or email me or chat here. Thank you so much. You guys have a great week. And we'll talk to you soon.